This conference will now be recorded.
The council meeting of February 16th, 2021 will now please come to order. Due to this meeting being a virtual meeting, council is asking if anyone who would like to address council who is participating through the computer, please use your chat feature now to let Clerk Massarolo know you have a comment, and you will be called on during the comment portion of the meeting. If you are calling on a phone or do not have access to the chat feature, we will give directions during the public comment portion of our meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Broussard.
Present.
Mr. Glassburn.
Here.
Ms. Heeman.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Limpert.
Present.
Mr. Shimon.
Here.
Ms. Williamson.
Here.
If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of February 2nd, 2021 are approved as written. The following legislation will be considered for suspension of the rules this evening. On second reading, Resolution 2021-14. And on first reading, Resolution 2021-18. Mayor Kennedy, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, no report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Law Director Garreau, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a couple of notes this evening. I want to let you know that that matter that was pending in the Ohio Supreme Court, which deals with a statutory right of action for a resident to demand prosecution, that was originally denied in the Court of Appeals. An appeal was taken to the Supreme Court. City of North Olmsted filed its brief today in opposition. So we're hoping, we feel have a fairly strong case and hoping that that matter will be resolved in our favor in fairly short order. We also have another matter, a couple new issues to speak of. Sri Shankar LLC, that's Paul Patel doing business as La Quinta. You may remember last year we had initiated litigation for the non-payment of our hotel motel tax, and we're back at it again. So that matter has been commenced. He's unsuccessful in service so far, but we would like judgment against him to collect the fees that the City of North Olmsted uses to purchase equipment for our police and fire safety forces. Again, these are taxes that he has charged guests that have stayed there and then never paid those tax funds to the City of North Olmsted. So I know times are tough. I know the hotel motel industry is taking a hit, but he only is going to pay what he actually charged guests who stayed there. So even though the numbers are down, we would get a much smaller amount, but it still belongs to the City of North Olmsted and it still should be paid. So we're going to pursue that and get the funds that we're rightfully entitled to. We have an appeal. McColgan versus the City of North Olmsted is a workers' comp claim that has been appealed. The applicant was not satisfied with the result that he received through the workers' compensation process, and he has now taken an appeal to the court. So we're working on that. We also have a couple of other issues we're working on. Is that we're pursuing a nuisance house in North Olmsted on Fitch Road. It's been abandoned. The owner has passed away. It's been abandoned. We have numerous maintenance reports coming in, and we're going to obtain a warrant to go in to determine if the house is now in its condition a candidate for potential demolition if that is sufficiently determined to be deteriorated. And also, a law department's been working with Civil Service Commission to talk about lateral transfers for new police and fire safety members. And so that's been an ongoing process with Marie Gallo and Human Resources Department, working with the law department to get a good result so we can move forward with getting good candidates. It's been difficult lately, but we're going to keep looking for new and creative ways to get good people to work for North Olmsted. So, Madam President, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Finance Director Kopfer, do you have a report this evening? Director Kapfer, if you could please unmute.
Hit the camera button, sorry. Since we last met, Moody's Investor Services assigned a AA2 rating to the imminent bond issue, the 12.5 million one that we're actually selling tomorrow in the market. And it reaffirmed its AA2 rating on all our cities' geo debt, both limited and unlimited. And again, we can all take pride in that they recognize the city's strong financial management by being conservative and proactive as financial factors change, such as significant revenue declines. And we have a demonstrated history of a strong willingness to adjust our budget accordingly. And that is not what all cities do. So we should all take pride in this. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much for that good news. Moving into council committee reports, Councilman Broussard, Chairman of the Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Madam President. Thank you. The Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee met on February 9th, 2021, beginning at 7:01 p.m. Present were committee members Broussard, Williamson, and Limpert, Council President Jones, Council members Schuman, Heeman, and Glassburn, the Mayor, Directors Kopfer, Garreau, Gallo, and Lieber, and guests. We met to discuss Ordinance 2021-13, which reads an ordinance amending Section 139.04 entitled Division of Police of Chapter 139 of the Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted, entitled Department of Public Safety, in order to increase the amount of the petty cash fund for use by the North Olmsted Police Department. This one was the explanation was handled by Mayor Kennedy, and essentially this ordinance combines 4 different petty cash funds within the Police Bureau into a single petty cash fund. It increases the combined 4 funds from $300 to $400, with the primary purpose of being able to make change for persons paying tickets and fines, etc., versus actual expenditures. Motion was made by myself to approve to all of council, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson, passed by a vote of 3-0. The meeting concluded at 7:08 p.m. and that'll conclude my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson, Chairwoman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman, Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do have a report this evening. Thank you, Madam President. Finance met on 2/9/21 at 7:10. Present were members Schuman and Broussard. Mr. Kelly was there after the first couple items were discussed. Also, the rest of the council, Councilwoman Williamson, Councilman Glassburn, Councilman Limpert, Councilwoman Heeman, the Mayor, the Council President, Directors Garreau, Kopfer, Lieber, Gallo, and guests. First on the agenda was 2021-12, which reads an ordinance amending Section 131.06 entitled Authority to Accept Donations of Chapter 131 of the Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted, entitled Mayor, in order to allow the Mayor to accept any cash or gift card donation to the Division of Youth and Family Services or the Division of Aging. We have spoken about this earlier, but the Council President suggested she might offer some possible amendments. So Mr. Broussard and I voted 2-0 to hold in committee. Next, we discussed 2021-14. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of North Olmsted to apply for and, if approved, to accept a grant awarded by Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, Energized Community Grants for 2021, and declaring an emergency. This is the grant that will be used for a ventilation system. It does appear in the budget. And I understand that the administration is asking us to suspend it this evening. It was voted 2-0 to recommend. Finally, we discussed 2021-15, which is an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of North Olmsted for the year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency. After discussion of the changes to both the council's amended temporary budget and the mayor's original temporary budget, and the increases in tax projections, council was requested to forward any questions or concerns to the finance director. It was decided to hold in committee 3-0. The meeting ended at 8:40 p.m. and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do. Thank you, Madam President. The Environmental Control Committee met this evening, and the committee was called to order at 7:30. Present were committee members Heeman, Glassburn, Williamson, council members Kelly, Schuman, and Broussard, Council President Jones, the mayor, finance director, planning director, human resources director, city engineer, and guests. The meeting was called to just obtain an update for the committee and all of council regarding the EQ Basin project, also known as the South Interceptor, which is a project that has been in the works for several months to relieve some of the storm flooding that the city has been experiencing. Our city engineer, Mr. DeFranco, reported to us that CT consultants have been hired to handle the investigative and the design work, that there was a kickoff meeting on January 19th, and that there were several sites identified in the area south of I-480, and those potential sites are Mackenzie and Bellevue, and they are sites owned either by ODOT, the school board, or some private properties. There are also other city properties near Spruce and Chestnut schools that are also being considered, and those would be for stormwater only and not sanitary. There have been a stage 1 that is in process, which is the geotechnical, environmental, and hydraulic assessments. Those things were started, but unfortunately the weather did not cooperate, and so they have not been able to do soil testing and the like because the ground has been covered with snow. Those were to start on the 22nd of January, but hopefully the weather will cooperate a little bit better going forward, and that project is stage 1 is set to hopefully be completed by mid-March. Stage 2 is the layout and possible tank, underground storage tank configuration, and that is set hopefully for early April with a finalization by the end of April, again weather dependent. They are having, the administration is having bi-weekly meetings with CT, and that CT is set up to have a project manager and 3 separate levels of staff members at the meetings. So it all seems like it's moving along pretty well. The mayor reported that there is some progress with ODOT regarding some agreements that have been gone through the law department, and that there is possibly some money left over from the Pine project that could assist with the EQ Basin project, and that we will of course keep everyone updated as we learn more. The meeting then was concluded at 7:41 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn, Chairman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do, Madam President. Thank you. The Intergovernmental Relations Committee met this evening, the 16th at 7 p.m. Present were committee members Glassburn, Schuman, and Heeman, President Jones, council members Kelly, Williamson, and Broussard, the mayor, Director Gallo, Law Director Garreau, and guests. The subject was appointments to the Small Business Relief Board. We heard interest from James Burns and Elizabeth Supan. Mr. Burns is a longtime resident of North Olmsted and has previously served as finance director as well as a CPA. Ms. Supan had previously served on the Charter Review Commission and as a financial expert for Cuyahoga County and University Hospitals. The committee recommended Mr. Burns for the third position on the board by a vote to 3-0. I moved and Mr. Vice Chairman Schuman seconded, and that was 3-0. And the committee also recommended Elizabeth Supan for the second position, myself moving and Mr. Schuman seconding by a vote of 3-0. The committee concluded at 7:08 p.m. And at this time, Madam President, I would move that we appoint Elizabeth Supan to the second position on the Small Business Relief Board and James Burns to the third position on the Small Business Relief Board, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to approve the appointments of Ms. Supan and Mr. Burns made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilman Schuman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Ms. Supan and Mr. Burns have been appointed with a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly, Chairman of the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you for joining our meeting tonight. At this time, council will hear comments from the public. Please remember to state your name and address for our clerk. If you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state the name of that city. We will start with those who have notified us via the chat feature. Anyone who has not notified us via chat who would like to comment, please unmute your phone and start your comment when prompted. Clerk Massarolo, has anyone notified you that they would like to comment this evening?
No, Madam President.
At this time, is there anyone on the computer or on the phone who would like to comment? Please address council now. Seeing no comments from our audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on third reading. Ordinance 2020-77, introduced by Councilman Schuman. An ordinance amending section 1135.02 of the zoning code of the city of North Olmsted entitled accessory uses for the purpose of eliminating the 200-foot residential lot setback requirement for animal shelters used for chickens as amended.
Madam President,
Councilman Schuman.
I move 2020-77 for adoption. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-77 made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes, with comment. This is definitely an area in which the council is wading into that we don't know a lot about. We'll have to see how this works out and if changes need to be made at a later time. Thank you.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes, with a comment. My first inclination is that most of our city lots are too small for this type of thing. We do have one or two residents who are doing it successfully. I would hope that those residents that follow will be cognizant of the fact that, it's a pretty big undertaking, and that if changes do need to be made on a going forward basis, I would also be open to doing that. But yes, thank you.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-77 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-4, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the city engineer to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide asphalt resurfacing and related repairs upon city streets as detailed in the specifications on file in the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Councilman Lippert.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-4 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-4 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-4 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-5, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the city engineer to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide crack sealing on various streets at various locations in the city, as detailed in the specifications on file in the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Councilman Limpert.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-5 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-5 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-5 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-6, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the city engineer to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide new pavement markings to various streets and locations in the city as detailed in the specifications on file in the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Councilman Limpert.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-6 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-6 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-6 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-7, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for rock salt for roadway ice and snow removal for use by the city of North Olmsted as detailed in specifications on file, and further authorizing the mayor, after approval by the Board of Control, to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder.
Madam President,
Councilman Limpert,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-7 and ask for a second.
Second.
motion to adopt resolution 2021-7 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-7 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2021-10, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to purchase a combination jet vacuum machine and equipment at a final cost of $465,000 from Jack Doheny Company, all through the state purchase program, and further authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to effectuate such purchase.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 2021-10 and ask for a second.
Second.
motion to adopt resolution 2021-10 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman,
Yes,
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-10 is adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on second reading. Ordinance 2021-13, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance amending section 139.04, entitled Division of Police, of Chapter 139 of the Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted, entitled Department of Public Safety, in order to increase the amount of the petty cash fund for use by the North Olmsted Police Department. Resolution 2021-14, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor, on behalf of the City of North Olmsted, to apply for and, if approved, to accept a grant awarded by the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC Energized Community Grants for 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Schuman,
I'd like to move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings. This was heard in committee. Was also discussed in caucus tonight. This is a grant with no objection from the committee. I ask for a second.
Second.
motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilman Broussard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman.
yes,
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding resolution 2021-14, please do so now.
Hearing none and seeing none, I move for adoption.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-14 made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilman Broussard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-14 has been adopted with a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on first reading. Ordinance 2021-16. An ordinance amending section 107.15 entitled Financial Disclosure Statements Required of Chapter 107 of the Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted entitled Code of Ethics in order to amend the local filing deadline to match state law and declaring an emergency.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2021-17. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a one-year contract with ProCare Services Stryker in order to provide maintenance and repair services for LifePak heart monitors used by the North Olmsted Fire Department.
Madam President,
Mayor,
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading.
thank you.
Resolution 2021-18. A resolution authorizing the North Olmsted Service Department, Forestry, to make application on behalf of the City of North Olmsted for the 2021 Cuyahoga County Healthy Urban Tree Canopy Program, further authorizing the mayor to accept funds if awarded and to execute a contract with Cuyahoga County, including requirement of 10% local matching funds and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Mayor,
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President,
Councilman Kelly.
I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings and formal committee review as this is time sensitive with the deadline at the end of February, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilman Kelly, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 7-0. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding resolution 2021-18, please do so now.
Madam President,
Councilman Kelly.
seeing and hearing none, I move for adoption and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt resolution 2021-18 made by Councilman Kelly, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
Resolution 2021-18 is adopted with a vote of 7-0. Moving into scheduling our committee meetings for next Tuesday, February 23rd. Councilman Broussard.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll schedule a Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee meeting to discuss Resolution 2021-17, beginning at 7 p.m. and ending at approximately 7:10 p.m. And I'll ask that the mayor or his designee be present. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman.
We're going to have a finance committee meeting at 7:10, February 23rd, and we will be discussing 12, 15, and 16. And I would ask the finance director to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn into executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes?
Madam President.
Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move to adjourn into executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes and ask for a second if we need one.
Second.
Motion to adjourn into executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
I will abstain and abstain from participating in the meeting.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
That motion passes with 6 yes votes and 1 abstention. Council will now move into executive session at 8:36 p.m. I ask council to please mute their microphones and turn off your cameras on this meeting and follow the instructions sent to join the executive session. I will wait 3 minutes from now to give everyone a chance to get dialed in. If you have any issues logging in, please reach out to Clerk Massarolo, and then he can notify me. Once the executive session has ended, council will return and conclude the rest of this meeting.
This conference will now be recorded.
The executive session is adjourned and the regular council meeting is resuming at 8:48 p.m. With the agenda being posted and there being no further business to come before council, the meeting of February 16th, 2021 is adjourned at 8:48 p.m.